Hi, today we're at one of our training facilities because there's an inch of snow here, not a foot of snow that's on our regular range. And what we're talking about is accurate pistol shooting. And today will be part one of a three-part series. Today we'll talk about grip and stance, then part two will be sight alignment, sight picture, and part three, trigger control. And I want to make clear that I'm not attempting to tell anyone what they should do. I'm just explaining what I do and why. And my opinion is that when you start out shooting a pistol, the first time someone shoots a pistol, they should be using a user-friendly handgun and using a really stable, normal stance. I analogize this to learning to drive. The day you got behind the wheel for the first time, it was probably not in a Formula race car or a one-ton pickup with a 40-foot fifth wheel behind it. You probably were in a sedan or an SUV. And you didn't start out at the Grand Prix or the freeway or a metropolitan traffic jam. You were probably on a country road or one of the great favorites, a big empty parking lot. You've got to start out with the basics. And with shooting, that means starting out, shooting targets, shooting the occasional clanger or pop can just to keep it interesting, and developing a degree of competency in hitting the target before you start adding multiple target engagements, shooting on the run, combat reloads, and all that other stuff. When I tell people that, and then I show them a really basic stance, like an isosceles stance, the first thing I hear is someone telling me that's not a good stance because it can't allow you to really utilize cover. That may be correct, but you've got to develop a degree of competency in hitting the target and work on those basics, like sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, grip, and stance, before you can go on to all that advanced stuff. The first thing I'd say is start out with an ergonomically designed, user-friendly handgun, my favorite being this Ruger Mark III. Now, as far as stance, the stance that works best for me is a version of the Weaver stance. That means face the target, square to it, drop the dominant side leg back just a little bit. You'll see people exaggerate way back. No, just a little bit, so that the toes of the right foot are equal with the heel or the instep of the left. As you're facing the target, your shooting arm is extended. Support hand is in front, not on the bottom. In front, shoulders rotate forward, so you create an isometric tension, which absorbs recoil and holds the platform steady. Very important thing is, bring the gun up to your line of sight. Don't bring the gun up and then bring your head down to that. And then the low ready position is down like so. Any one of the many versions of the Weaver stance used to be the way all the cool kids did it, but now it's become fashionable for neophytes to denigrate the Weaver stance and its many versions and say that it's ineffective and always has been. I saw some guy recently on YouTube going on about how the Weaver stance was not good because it was not an athletic stance, and an athletic stance is required because an athletic stance is an athletic stance. About the fifth time he said athletic stance, I kind of lost track. Well, I am not an athlete, and yes, it's true. When I was in the Army, I was a master fitness trainer, but that's not the same thing as being an athlete. But when I see athletes like boxers in the ring, you know, it seems like they always have a straight-up stance with their strong side leg drop back just a little bit. Power lifters, when they're doing clean and jerk, very often drop that strong side leg back. Track runners in the starting blocks. So to say that the Weaver stance is not an athletic stance doesn't seem quite accurate to me, especially since the guy who said that was demonstrating a shooting stance that looked something like that. Another so-called expert was denigrating this position because he said that although it makes it easy to transition to the right, it makes it difficult to transition to the left. Looks okay to me. So it would appear that not all the criticism of the Weaver stance is well-founded. There are some problems. Some people just cannot grasp the concept of rotating the shoulder forward and creating that isometric pressure. Also, to be politically incorrect, it doesn't work well for some very well-endowed women. So it's not perfect and it's not for everyone, but it is what works for me. So for me, the Weaver stance makes a very stable platform for slow-fire target shooting and to engage multiple targets when you advance to that level. like that. So please tune in for part 2 when I talk about sight alignment and sight picture.